Joined now by Lucky Ntimane, convener for the National Liquor Traders Council. So, Lucky, Monday to Sunday, alcohol sales finally back to those normal license operating times. This is, of course, good news for the industry.
Good evening, Shahan, and good evening to eNCA viewers at home. Look, in the main, we welcome the President's announcement that really allowed the alcohol industry, to get that breathing space and return to normal, so that we can continue to support our businesses, but also to maintain the livelihoods that are dependent on the sector. As we know that there's almost 1 million jobs that are heavily reliant, on the alcohol industry. So this is a welcome relief for us. Though we had said back on the 12th of September that, the environment was ripe for the country to move to level 1. However, delay that was there, but we welcome that finally we're able to return back to normal. Although, Shahan, our worry is that, this decision seems to be more political than an economic consideration to really boost our economy, or as it were, to boost our alcohol industry and the tavern sector specifically. Our worry now going forward is that what are we putting in place as government to ensure that we do not get the fourth wave, as it were, because it will seem that, now that we are back to normal, the fourth wave is around the corner, and as an alcohol industry, we're going to suffer the consequences of the decision that the president has taken, especially with regards to gatherings, which we fully support, but we feel that, there needs to be safeguards in place to make sure that we're able to protect our people as much as also protecting the lives and the livelihoods of everyone in the country as we move towards the peak season of December.
So wait, you support that decision to allow 750 people to gather indoors and 2,000 outdoors, but you're worried about the measures that need to be put in place to ensure that these rules are not broken and people are safe.
Yes, so government needs to put stringent measures in place to make sure that the safeguard goes against, any mishaps that might happen for them to have allowed those numbers to happen. For us, Shahan, we feel that the events industry and even the entertainment or even the artists have suffered greatly as a result of this lockdown. So this is a welcome relief for them. They will be able to support their families. They will be able to pick up the pieces. So we support the measures that have been announced by the president on the basis of the livelihoods that will be protected and sustained as a result of this. But we feel that, government needs to do more as well, to support, those industries, those sectors that are going to be impacted positively by this announcement by the government. We have called on for relief measures to be given, to the artists as well as the tavern sector, because we feel that this is the right way that we're going to safeguard against the blows that, we had to suffer as a result of the bans. But we feel that, the time was ripe that we move the country to level 1. But our main worry is that we should not find ourselves in a position where we are banned in December, and we are calling on government to really engage with us so that we can find ways and means to look at measures that we can put in place to avoid the fourth wave, particularly in December. That will not be something that we welcome in any way.
But let's be honest, you and I know that is very unlikely to happen. People are now going to be allowed to get into a bar, 700 people, if it can manage that, and they're going to take their masks off and groove. And that's going to lead to super spreader events. That's going to lead to an increase in the infection rate. And we're going to see a fourth wave hit us quite hard.
We are actually not worried about the alcohol industry being a vehicle for super spreader activity. And the reason we're saying that, Shahan, is that, alcohol has been allowed to be sold in the country under the third wave for the past almost 6 weeks now. And the numbers have been steadily declining. So alcohol really, it means it contributed positively, if I were to put it that way, because the numbers have been declining, and hence we've been given opportunity to move to level 1. Our worry is actually the political organizations, and we have seen in the manifesto launches that, people just didn't follow the protocols. So our worry is the political mechanisms that have taken place, and they've not been following the laws. And one question that we wonder is, alcohol has been blamed for being a super spreader activity. Are we going to ban political parties for the number of cases that we're going to see as a result of this? No, certainly not. So we feel that government needs to level with us by finding a right way that will ensure that we safeguard the livelihoods of those that are dependent on industries that suffer the most when we face bans. The issue of having to be threatened with bans is not something that is going to fly with us anymore. Going forward, we feel that, we're going to take matters in our own hands to make sure that we protect our own and protect the livelihoods of those that are dependent on the alcohol industry. But government needs to do more. I think this was a political mechanism by government, by the president, certainly, to boost the chances of his political party to make sure that they do well in his coming elections. We had cautioned against the behavior by the president to want to behave as Father Christmas by issuing out various levels so that he can make the people of this country happy as if he's doing something. He is not really doing something special. We cannot compliment him for doing what he was supposed to have done in the first place on the 12th of September, where he made that commitment that was going to allow the country to move back to level 1.
Yeah, and for context, just tell us about the damage this banning of the sale of alcohol on weekends has done, if any.
I think the restaurant sector has suffered greatly, as well as the retail sector, which was only allowed to operate over a 4-day period, against the 7 days that was available for them. That meant, Shahan, that the costs that those sectors had to endure were based on 100%, even though their operations were limited to just under 70%. But also the restaurants, I mean, they had to close early. At first, it was about 9 o'clock, and then they got an hour extra on the 12th of September. But that made it very, very slow and difficult for them to fully recover because most of these restaurants had workers on short time. So we feel that now with an extra hour added again, it will help them to breathe, to be able to pick up the pieces and also be able to recall those workers that have been laid off, that have been on short time, so that they can come back and work. As we know, the restaurant sector is heavily dependent on tips. When people are not on the floor for long and they're not able to support their families, they're not able to supplement their income, with the tips that come with having worked at a restaurant. But also the retail sector, which involves a lot of our people, had to suffer. Some of our workers had to be retrenched in that space because the 4-day trading was not sustainable for the retailer. So we welcome that everyone is going to go back into trading based on the license conditions. But also as taverners, we have taken a responsibility, to make sure that we continue to support government's efforts in fighting against the COVID-19 pandemic in how we operate. And we have taken the fight, to COVID-19 by ensuring that we encourage our workers as well as our liquor traders to be the champions in the fight against COVID-19 by vaccinating. So we are taking a lead and taking action to make sure that we encourage our members to vaccinate, but also encouraging men who are mostly our patrons that frequent our places of trade to make sure that they vaccinate and encourage their workers and their families as well to vaccinate.
One last question. Are tavern owners thinking about a vaccine certificate to gain entry? Is that something you consider?
No, we do not think that a vaccine certificate discussion is something that we consider. We feel that the discussion needs to happen as a countrywide approach because you cannot subject liquor traders to a vaccination conversation, whereas supermarkets who have a lot of people walking into their doors are not being subjected to the very same conversation. So we feel that this conversation needs to happen, not only at the tavern sector level, but if it's be it as a full grocery level or at a full economy level, as it were. But we as liquor traders will not accept anyone who will even make a suggestion to say that people who are not vaccinated are not allowed to come into our places. We'll fully reject such an announcement.
Yeah, I guess it has to start somewhere, though. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Lucky Ntimane, convener of the National Liquor Traders Council.